Hello my loves, I'm Anita Manager and welcome back to Sip and Simmer. We all may have our concerns and worries in life, but during the next 30 minutes you're mine and we're here to have a drink, a snack, and a good time. Now, before I go on, I would like to make another announcement. I will be doing a random giveaway. You can win an Anita Manager t-shirt and a Sienna Rose t-shirt each week. Now, what you have to do is you have to like and share the video and post your favorite food emoji in the comments below. Now, the weeks here at Sip and Simmer are Saturday through Thursday, and I will be making the announcements on Mama Mondays, so a week from today. Now, this episode we will be making Dunkaroos and a French martini. If you would like to contribute to the production of Sip and Simmer, my Venmo has changed. It is Mrs. Anita Manager. So now all of my social media is all Mrs. Anita Manager, and that includes Venmo. Ding. All the proceeds do go to the drinks and the snacks that we make here on Sip and Simmer together. And I really do appreciate all of the donations that you've all made. It's very warming to the soul that you enjoyed enough to give us a tip. Now, this Mama Monday, you'll have me to yourself the entire time. Now, before we get to our drinks, I need a minute. Tonight I want to talk to you about change. More specifically, positive change. If change were simple, we wouldn't even need to think about it. Our goals would be met with no thought or effort at all. But we know that it's just not that simple. Change is an inevitable fact of life, but knowing that doesn't make it any simpler to deal with. That's especially true if you are a fan of consistency and routine like myself, big time. Even positive change, like an exciting new job opportunity, or going to a new school, or moving to a new place, can be a challenge. And some ways, positive changes are more challenging than negative. For example, it's often something that you've chosen, and change can make you wonder, first, am I doing the right thing? Second, could this change be for good? It could be even more difficult to address than a less positive emotion might come with. You might feel as if you should only be excited about and optimistic when you might in fact be feeling a little anxious or scared. I feel that literally every day. No matter how good a change might be, I always find myself feeling overwhelmed and anxious about it. Here are two of the best ways that I personally have found of coping with my feelings with change. First, I like to embrace the uncomfortable. So it's like giving myself a big hug. Discomfort with positive change is a sign of learning and growing. Embracing that feeling can often lead you to discover that you're not actually as uncomfortable as you initially thought. You're just feeling like a novice, and that's good, that's exciting. Number two, don't stress about being stressed out. That I'm super, super guilty of. It's easy to be stressed by each part of your life. It's even easier to look at the stressful things waiting for you, and you get stressed about the future stress. Usually that second layer comes with being intimidated by the big changes that are coming your way. But it's easy to think about like laundry. An overflowing basket is a lot to put away, but do you do it all at once? Of course not. You do it one t-shirt or one pair of socks at a time. Positive change is exciting, but it's not all sunshines and rainbows. Just remember to be confident in your decisions and take it one step at a time, and it'll all work out just fine. One more thing that I would like to add is I would really like to thank everybody that I live with for putting up with me. I'm losing my mind being stuck at home, and they are all being very helpful and patient with me. I usually like to dip my hands into a bunch of different jars at once and do a million things, and I'm losing my mind being stuck at home. My temper has been short, I've been frustrated, and I'm doing my best, but everybody understands my special kind of crazy. After that, I would like to start our drink. Tonight we're going to be making a French martini. So I have our shaker, our martini glass, and our ingredients. Now, like I said, Mama Mondays are all about me, and I love a martini. So a martini is in a pretty glass, and it's a strong drink. So in my martini glass here, I'm going to put 2 ounces of vodka. I'm going to put 1 ounce of pineapple juice and 1/4 ounce of raspberry liqueur. That's it. That's all it takes. I'm going to put this on here, grab a dish towel, and give it a shake. I don't know how bartenders make that look sexy, because I'm the most awkward person in the world. It also doesn't help that I'm wearing 46 layers and a corset, and then 46 layers, and then fake boobs, and then a wig, and then uncomfortable clothes. But it's fun! Okay, so that is a French martini. Remember I said I've been a bartender before? I wasn't lying. It just wasn't a good one. Okay, so I'm gonna take a sip of that. See, that's delicious and all. It's a little sweet for my liking. I prefer, as you saw last week, just a straight dirty martini because those are delicious and nice and strong. Okay, so we're gonna move on to making homemade Dunkaroos. I loved Dunkaroos growing up, and my mom would never buy them because they were absolutely nothing but sugar. So now I'm going to be making them at home because I'm going to make a big vat of them and eat all of it. Okay, so got my stand mixer here, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to mix my dry ingredients, and then I'm going to put my wet ingredients into my dry ingredients. 9 times out of 10 when you're making cookies, that's as easy as it gets. So I have 1.25 cups of flour. I've got a teaspoon of baking powder. I've got a teaspoon of baking soda. I've got a teaspoon of, half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And that's that. So I've got my dry ingredients over here. Now in my mixer, I'm going to put 1/3 cup of brown sugar. I'm going to put 1/4 cup of butter that is room temperature. I'm going to scoop that in. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cream the butter and the sugar together. Now, creaming butter and sugar is super simple, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about it before, but the most important thing when you're creaming butter and sugar together is that it gets light and fluffy. So it takes about 3 minutes. But this is TV. So we're gonna pretend like that's all creamed together. Thank you for joining us, Cassandra, and thank you for your positive outlook. Okay, so we've creamed together that butter and sugar for about 3 minutes, right? So now I'm gonna throw in an egg, and I'm gonna put in a teaspoon of, half a teaspoon of vanilla. Give that a little whip. I don't know about you guys, but this quarantine is really getting to me, and it really hit me today. So if you're wondering what my breaking point about going crazy is, it's about 30 days. It's been a very long and stressful day, but I've got a big smile on my face, and I'm gonna stop talking about it, I promise. All right, so I've got my egg mixed into my sugar, nice and whipped. So now I'm gonna throw in my dry ingredients, and I'm just gonna make sure that it's fully incorporated. This is a pretty wet dough, so you wanna make sure that it is fully incorporated before you take it out of the bowl. Otherwise, it's gonna stick to everything. And thank you for the compliments. I have been trying so hard to get into wearing brown hair. It is not my thing, but I am loving it tonight, so thank you. All right, so once our flour is incorporated, you can just hear it. Once it starts to like wobble a little bit, that means that the dough is all collected, and that's all good. I'm going to take a piece of plastic wrap, and you are not going to flail it around so it gets all stuck to itself. I'm going to take my cookie dough, and I'm just going to put it in the plastic wrap. Now this is super important for most cookies, for this one in particular, because it's a very simple dough. You want to make sure that you put it in the refrigerator for a minimum of 2 hours. But the plus side is that you can leave it in the refrigerator for up to 2 days. So this makes 6 billion cookies. So you can cut it in half and you can make it over the course of a couple days. So that way you have a little bit of Dunkaroos to lighten up your whole week. All right. So I'm just gonna scrape this down. Boom. Like I said, it's a really, really wet dough, which makes it really infuriating to roll out, which you will see in just a second. So I'm not even going to do any mixing because it's super tacky. So I'm just going to give it a wrap, and then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for 2 hours. Now, if you leave it in the refrigerator for a couple of days, you want to make sure that you take it out like 15 minutes before you try and roll it out, because it will be really hard because there's a lot of butter in comparison to the rest of the ingredients. So this has been in the fridge for a little while, so I'm just going to soften it a little bit. Now, this is not your typical cookie dough, like I said, so it's super wet. You are going to need a lot of flour when you roll it out. If you think you have enough flour, put more, because it's just going to shred all over the place. So, I came to work tonight. I've got my whole big tub of flour because doing it earlier was a So, I'm going to put a whole bunch on the board. I'm going to unwrap it. Now, for this, you want to make sure that they're relatively thin because they puff up quite a bit, but they don't necessarily spread out. So I did about 1 million of them on one cookie sheet, and they were really close together, and they just fluffed up. They didn't really spread out, which is nice. So you can actually make a whole bunch of them at the same time. Now, like I said, when you're rolling this out, you want to heavily coat it in flour because it's going to stick to everything. Okay, so I have my rolling pin, and we're going to roll it out till it's approximately 1/4 of an inch to 1 millimeter thick. And you want to make sure, like I said, that they're super thin because those little kangaroos were nice and crunchy, if I remember correctly. Mom, if you're watching, you should have got me more Dunkaroos. Alright, so I've got this rolled out, and I don't know about you, but I don't have a kangaroo cookie cutter. If you do, more power to you. I'm using a circle because it's easy and I can do them really quickly. If you have a kangaroo cutter, or if you have any kind of cutter that has a sharp edge, make sure you watch them when they're in the oven. The big problem is that they cook very quickly. They're only going to the oven for about 5 minutes, and they will burn on any sharp edges. Okay, so I'm just gonna stamp these guys out. And we're gonna pretend like I'm taking my time and using all of my dough. I promise you I don't waste. I do go back and I do make all the stuff. So, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put some on this cookie sheet so I could show you the placement, because I really was serious when I said Sienna and I, she helped me this afternoon, it had to have been 100 on a cookie sheet. So, just like this, you can really fill up your entire cookie sheet and get them all on there. So that is going to go into the oven. Thank you, Adrian. I try. The main reason, aside from being able to show you the finished product, that I like to do the recipe beforehand is because a lot of times I do alter the recipes, because while I'm not a classically trained chef, I have worked in a kitchen, a few kitchens, and I cook every single day, so I'm pretty savvy when it comes to how things work, like baking powder, baking soda, salt, how to break down sugar and butter and whatever. So I just think it's really important for me to be able to give you all of the information beforehand, before you go out and use your ingredients, especially now with them being so hard to come by. So thank you, I try my best. Okay, so like I said, this is gonna go into the oven, 350, 5 minutes, maybe 7. They're super small, and you wanna make sure that they don't burn. You want a nice golden color on them. If you want them even sweeter, what you can do is, instead of using flour like I did here, you can use powdered sugar to roll them out. I would suggest against it because you are literally just going to be scooping it into a bowl of sugar. That's up to you. I like my sweets, but that's just a little too much for me. So here I have them all baked. So this is what they're gonna look like. You know what, let me just dust some of that flour off my hands. Okay, so this is what they're gonna look like. They kind of look like little Nilla wafers. I think that's what they're called. In the yellow box. Google it and let me know. Okay, so this is what they look like. Super simple, and they taste identical to those little kangaroos. I am obsessed with these. Okay, so I've got my mixer over here, and now we're going to be making the dip. Okay, so instead of using the paddle attachment like we did for the cookies, I've got my whisk. The most important thing about doing the icing, because it's literally just like a buttercream icing, you want to make sure that your butter is melted and then brought back to room temperature. Again, I do a lot during the day. Like, it takes me hours to prep for the show, and then I forget by the time the show is done filming. I have no idea what melting the butter and bringing it back to room temperature does, but it's important. So I've got my melted butter that is now room temperature. I have 2 cups of powdered sugar. I have half a teaspoon of salt, because it's really important when you're using sugar to counter it with salt. It does make it amplify the flavor, but it also gives it a little contrast to the flavor also. I have half a cup of sprinkles, because I literally was pouring these out and I threw a handful of sprinkles in my mouth because I'm obsessed with sprinkles. I find it silly to have ice cream without sprinkles. I just want sprinkles all the time. And the best part about living with Sienna is she hates them. So I get all of the sprinkles and everybody else forgets about them. So they're literally like my sprinkles. Okay, so, and then I'm also going to put half a teaspoon of vanilla. That is optional. If you want almond, if you want any other flavor, just replace the vanilla with that flavor, okay? Cute, party, awesome, love it. All right, so I'm just gonna scrape this butter into my mixer. If you notice, when Sienna's not here, I use everything in the stand mixer because I'm lazy and I have to do it by myself. And I don't like that. Okay, so you're gonna put everything into your stand mixer except for the sprinkles. Those you're gonna put in very, very last. You don't wanna whip them too much because sprinkles are powdered sugar and food coloring, so they break up and they will just give you a unicorn poop looking soup. All right, so I'm gonna get that into the mixer. And then I'm just gonna turn it on. It's a very messy recipe. I feel like I'm covered in flour. Okay. So, this is when we take a break and we have a sip. Okay. So the powdered sugar is hydrophobic, which means that it really doesn't like being wet, so you really have to like force it into the butter. So if you have to turn up your mixer, you can. If you notice that it's not really breaking down enough, like buttercream frosting, you can put in 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk, which is what I'm going to do because we are not gonna wait. I've got my milk here. When you're at home, don't forget, Mama says mise en place. Measure your stuff out first. Don't do this. That's about right. Okay. She's looking beautiful. Okay. So I'm just gonna make sure that I get all the powdered sugar off the walls of the bowl. Now I wanted to make sure that I scrape down the walls of the bowl to get all the powdered sugar down, but now is when I'm gonna put the sprinkles in. A little bit of the dryness of the powdered sugar will help disperse the sprinkles so they all don't sink to the bottom. So now in goes the sprinkles, and then a quick little mix. Fun fact, I usually cut the recipes in half so that way I can prepare half beforehand and then do half with you. Like I did for the icing tonight, but I did the full amount of sprinkles because what? She loves sprinkles. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm just going to, with my hand, just make sure I scrape everything all up. So this is going to be a little bit more wet than a buttercream frosting, but that's what you want. You want it to be more dunkable than buttercream because buttercream can tend to get thick and it will, oh wait. Thick is our magic word. When Anita says thick, you take a sip. All right, so it gets nice and, buttercream gets really thick as opposed to this icing that you want a little bit more liquidy and you don't want it to harden because you want it to be dunkable. Cute? Okay, so got a little ramekin here and I'm gonna scoop in our icing. This, let me tell you something. I was that fat kid in the lunchroom trading stuff, and this icing looks exactly like, oh, I think I got a little too excited with that icing. There you go. All right, it looks exactly like Dunkaroos. Okay, so here we have our Dunkaroos icing. And we have our ghetto little circle Dunkaroos. I'm telling you, you're gonna be obsessed. These taste absolutely identical. And I found quite a few recipes, but this was the one that I fell in love with because this is the right one, trust me. All right. So I wanna thank all of you for tuning into another episode of Sip and Simmer. I hope you guys had a great Monday with me. And don't forget, I want to see those food emojis and I want to see the shares because I am taking screen captions of everything so I don't forget because that's what she does. And I will make the announcement a week from today who wins the Anita Manager and the Sienna Rose t-shirts. Thank you all for watching. I'm Anita Manager and you are amazing. Mwah! I'm not sharing these. I'm not kidding. They're all mine.